Think for a moment about the idea of a human being lifting 1,000 pounds. That's an incredible accomplishment. Our guest this week has done it. Chris Duffin is arguably one of the strongest humans in the world, having been the only person to squat and deadlift over 1,000 pounds for reps. And he holds the Guinness World Record for the heaviest one rep sumo deadlift at 1,001 pounds.
In just a moment, Chris will join us to share his incredible story of strength and resilience and the lessons you can learn about accomplishing your goals against any odds.
This is The Fit Mess, conversations with world-class experts in the fields of mental, physical, and emotional health. In this episode,
had a house with a white picket fence, very comfortable marriage, 2 kids, lots of money, owned a gym on the side, was competing and ranked #1 in the world. And looked at myself one of the days and I said, why am I so fucking unhappy?
now here are your hosts, Zach and Jeremy.
Welcome to The Fit Mess. Thanks for listening while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing right now. I'm Zach and he's Jeremy, and together we're 2 vulnerable guys helping you overcome struggles to achieve your mental and physical wellness goals. Jeremy, I can tell you one of my goals is not lifting 1,000 pounds of anything.
Yeah, I could barely lift the laundry this morning, let alone 1,000 pounds. The accomplishments that this guy has, Chris Duffin is just an incredible dude. We'll talk to him in just a minute. Not only lifting 1,000 pounds, not only starting multiple successful businesses, but this dude grew up in the wilderness, homeless, among murderers, drug runners, serial killers, skinning rattlesnakes. I mean, just an incredible, when I think about your childhood was a mess compared to mine. Like mine, pretty standard garden variety trauma. Yours, next level. His makes us both look like we were raised in Disneyland.
Listening to his story, I was like, I didn't have it so bad. It was pretty easy after listening to that. I mean, the rattlesnakes alone was enough.
Any one of those.
I don't like snakes at all. Like you dealing with rattlesnakes as a child. Nope. Fuck that. No way.
And one of the things about a story like his, and we'll talk to him about it in a minute, is whenever I hear stories of people with incredible accomplishment, it can go one of 2 ways for me. I'm either motivated by them and think, oh man, they overcame those odds. That's incredible. I can overcome my nonsense, my depression, my sadness, my, whatever crap I'm dealing with. Or I can go, man, how much do I suck that I can't get over my own nonsense to do what I need to do when that guy went through so much worse and did so much better?
Yeah, that's the standard glass half full, glass half empty, right? You can either think of it as like, yeah, he did more than me, but my glass is still half full. Or you can think of it as, oh man, look at me. My glass is definitely half empty. There's no value in what's already there. Like it's something we all struggle with for sure. I have it all the time too, but this guy definitely makes me feel like I had a really easy childhood.
So of all of his crazy accomplishments and things that he's done, it's his motivation that I find to be just completely incredible. And Zach, I know you go to the gym every morning at like 1 a.m. or whatever insane time you roll out of bed to go do it. I can't get motivated to go. I used to enjoy going. I went one time recently, hated it. And now my mindset to go back is even set back further because the one time I went and I hated it. So where do you find your motivation? Like this, just going and sitting in a room and lifting heavy things just seems like the most boring, monotonous thing I could imagine doing with my time. Getting out of bed at 4 a.m. or whatever to do it. I cannot put my head in that space right now. How do you do it every day?
I had a conversation with my daughter about it the other day because she went to a CrossFit for Kids class, and it really helped me explain to her like why I go, because yeah, it's hard. It's not fun. It's challenging. And I mean, part of it's my personality. I am competitive and I'm competitive with myself, but I go and I get myself out of bed in the morning because of my why, right? I go lift heavy things so that I can do things in life easier, right? I've got in my house, I regularly am in the basement and I have to go all the way up to the 2nd floor. So 2 flights of stairs and back down, right? I don't want to be winded when I do that, but I go to the gym to prepare me for life. All of the strength that I build at the gym prepares me for things that I need to do. If I ever have to lift a car off someone, maybe I can do it. I don't know. But what I can tell you is, interestingly enough, like I hurt my shoulder at the gym the other day. And man, like when I am not able to do the things I want to do, I get that bug to just stop and not go, because then it's no fun for me because I can't do the things that I want to do. And shout out to Kayla. I'm still going. I'm doing very, very light things with my shoulder, making sure I'm not injuring it. But like the motivation is there for me because I want to be able to live a long, healthy life. And I don't want to be 80 and not be able to move. So the more I move now, the better I'm going to be able to move in the future. When you do what you love, like running, biking, and enjoying the great outdoors, you want to do it for life. Inside Tracker can help. It was founded in 2009 by leading scientists in aging, genetics, and biometrics. Inside Tracker analyzes your data to provide you with a clear picture of what's going on inside your body and offers you science-backed recommendations for positive diet and lifestyle changes. With Inside Tracker's concrete action plan, you'll be able to track your progress towards reaching your goals every day.
And for a limited time, we've teamed up with Inside Tracker to provide our listeners with a chance to win the ultimate Inside Tracker prize package. Head on over to insidetracker.com/fitmess giveaway or click the link on our website and enter for a chance to win a prize pack worth more than $1,700 from Inside Tracker. I think maybe you just helped me identify what it is, because I've always struggled with the concept of starting doing something and not being immediately good at it, right? Like if I'm going to go skiing, I'm going to get on the ski lift for the first time ever with skis on my feet. I'm going to go to the top of the biggest mountain and I'm just going to breeze down, and anything else, well, if I fail, if I get too scared, like whatever, never doing it again. Hate it. That's just not for me. The idea of starting on the bunny hill and just going down a small hill and not falling on my face, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to be that guy. I have to be immediately good at the thing. So when I walk into the gym, not knowing what I'm doing, following some random guide that I found on the interwebs, it's hard enough not knowing what I'm doing, but then feeling like I'm not good at it. And then also you go for a week or two, you don't see the results, you don't feel all that much better, if at all. So then it's so easy to fall back into, well, this sucks. What am I doing this for? Because at least me, I know I'm driven by instant gratification. I think most people are. They want results immediately for the effort that they put into whatever the thing is. And so maybe this is it. Maybe it's simply that because I don't feel like I'm good at it, that I immediately put it in the this sucks and I suck at it category. Done. Don't need to do it anymore.
Well, I will just throw this out there. If you're ever going to get better at anything, you got to get comfortable with that feeling.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about the gym. I mean, anything. And I have to imagine that you tell your daughters this all the time.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And there are other aspects of my life that I do. I throw myself in feeling like I don't know what I'm doing and I suck at this and this isn't going to work out the way I want it to. And I'm able to push through, and maybe there's a different why attached to them. Maybe there's a bigger reason, but I can say, yeah, healthier, stronger, better, but that stuff's not tangible, right? There's not I'm going to have X level of success. And to me, lifting something that's 1,000 pounds, I have no personal attachment to that. I have no desire to lift something that's 1,000 pounds or 200 pounds or whatever the number is. It's meaningless to me. I've got to find that other meaningful thing to drive me to do the thing.
Well, let me rephrase it to you this way, because we do talk about this all the time. You're framing it as I went to the gym and I sucked at it, but I'm going to argue you were 100% better than you were the day before. Right?
Yeah.
Glass half full, my man. You were better than you were the day before. You are now stronger than you were the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you felt it and it hurt like hell for 2 days, but you were stronger and you did better.
Yeah.
And the next time you go, you'd be stronger and better. And it's little incremental improvements. And the instant gratification thing is a real problem.
It is
the way society is as a general thing.
Yeah. And when I was going to the gym on a regular basis, it was when I was at a job where I used the gym as an escape. So my motivation was, this gets me out of the office for an hour. This gets me away from those people I have to deal with all day. So it wasn't even about, I'm going to feel better, I'm going to look better, I'm going to be healthy. It was just like, I don't have to do that. Like, doing this is better than doing that. And what I'm doing now is more fun. So I would rather go walk in the woods or go hike or go sit in a cold lake for 2 minutes. Like, go do something that I enjoy because I can, rather than because the payoff's not immediate. Going to the gym isn't this immediate, like, oh, got me out of that deal. Jeez, thank goodness.
All right. Well, I now see a new use for our Facebook group, the Fit Mess community, which if you haven't joined already, you should go out and join that, because we do monthly challenges around yoga, meditation, things like that. And we're just having good, honest, open communication about it. But I think one of the other things that the group is going to be helpful with is accountability. And I think I'm going to turn everyone into the group to be your accountability partner to get your ass to the gym.
It's going to take a lot of accountability. It's going to take a lot of motivation to make me. And there's the dumbest thing. I mean, I mentioned this before. It's like a 6-minute walk to the gym from my front door. So it's not even an effort to get there.
That is my number one biggest struggle in going to the gym, is just fucking going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's that moment every single morning when I sit up and I look at the clock and I go, I would really like to go back to sleep, or I'm going to go to the gym. And it's just that one moment. It's the hardest part. And if I get up and turn the alarm off, that's it. Now I'm just on autopilot. And, just making that choice every morning to go to the gym instead of getting back into bed, it takes resilience. And for me, it's a little bit of resilience for that specific decision, but there's things throughout our entire day that take even more resilience. So let's jump into the interview with Chris Duffin, where he talks about how he used his resilience to become an accomplished athlete, entrepreneur, thought leader, despite surviving an abusive and chaotic childhood, being homeless in the wilderness. And we started with asking him how he became known as the mad scientist who pushes the development of resilience.
Most people would say, hey, I'm known for feats of strength, this big lifter that's done some amazing things. I'm the only person that's ever squatted and deadlifted 1,000 pounds and done so for reps. There's a Guinness World Record sitting there behind me. But I've also do a lot of other things. So I co-founded several businesses that bring unique products to the market. So I specialize in biomechanics, kind of gray area return to play, physical therapy, speak a lot in those arenas, and actually have a pretty extensive engineering background, used to run aerospace and automotive manufacturing companies. So nice. I play in a lot of different arenas, and that's kind of where my skill set comes in and why I'm called the mad scientist. I didn't make that up myself. That's what people started calling me, just because of this crazy kind of ideas or things from so many different disciplines that didn't make sense. I would bring out, and people are like, oh my God, that's wacky. It works. It's real. And that's what I've tried to do, is create tools and methodologies for people to adapt in the right manner, because not all stresses we're going to be able to adapt in the right ways to. There's things that we don't recover well from. There is too much, which we dive into the Eagle and the Dragon, talks a lot about trauma and things of that nature.
I've been thinking about a human being lifting 1,000 pounds. And I thought that was going to be one of the more interesting things I was going to ask you about, but I'm more interested in your motivation. I sort of function by necessity. Like as things come up, I have to deal with them. I try and be prepared as much as possible, but as things come up, I deal with them. The amount of things that you have accomplished, especially with your background, which we'll get into in a minute, how do you do it? Where does that drive come from? That's incredible.
You've got to have a deeper rooted sense of self and where you're coming from and what you want to accomplish. Like, let's take the 1,000-pound squat and deadlift. That was something I spent 5 years on, and I had very specific goals that I wanted to accomplish out of it that was beyond the lifting of those weights. And then we can dive deeper into that, because then that becomes the story, the Eagle and the Dragon, the story behind the book. But with those three things, like, I create content to help people live a better quality of life through development of physical resilience. And within that, there's a priority system of how I look at the body in both assessment and correction. And it's based on, the priorities are based on the largest global impact. And the largest global impact is going to be the ability to control and manage spinal mechanics. Second beyond that is going to be the foot and ankle complex. So with that in mind, I create tons of content around breathing and bracing mechanics. And I believe that you need to be able to walk the walk and demonstrate what you do. And so what is fundamentally, physically, how can I demonstrate, coming from a guy like myself who's had back injury so bad I've had to learn to walk again, by the way, that I can do something so phenomenally challenging on this and not make it a specialist. That's why I'm going to do a deadlift and a squat, so that, based on your preferences for lifting, the ape index and other stuff that comes into play to make somebody a specialist in one or the other. That's why I said both, because people have done one and half the other have done the other, but nobody's done both. Right. So I want to show fundamentally with two basic human movements. One, the squat, that is this lift that every able human body should be able to do because it's built into our nervous system. Actually, we actually learn that around the 9-month period of time in a developmental kinesiology. You learn this, but where that comes in as you get into moving from from rolling to crawling to getting into the quadruped to getting up into a standing position and then being able to use the hip hinge to be able to generate force into a standing position, right? The second being, be able to pick something up off the ground. Like fundamentally, these are two things. So I wanted to walk the walk and do that. Teach what my tools and my education and show just what it is. But I picked 1,000 pounds because it's 1,000 pounds. It's grand. That's why I called it grand goals. Because the other side of this coin is I want to show people that you can do things that are unthinkable. Like when I started this quest, I didn't say what I was even going to do. I'd been ranked number 1 in the world for like 8 years straight, all-time world record holder on, the total, the squat. And I didn't tell anybody I was going to do because they would have thought I was crazy. I just said, first up, I'm going to deadlift 1,000 pounds. Mm-hmm. People were like, that's crazy. Okay. And then I did it. And then I trained again for another 3 years until I said, I am going to squat 1,000 pounds. And people were like, you're crazy. And then as I got closer, I said, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to do it for reps. Like, because that's what I've done with the deadlift. And but to show people that you can go so much further than what you think if you focus on it, if you create this desire, this platform, the things that you need to align your life to accomplish something. And the last piece was to raise awareness for charities that I believe in along the way. So I did a number of feats of strength actually leading into this. I squatted 8. Well, I don't need to list them off. It'll sound egotist, but I kept doing things that raise money for charities and things that I believe in. So a lot of them were local around creating homes and care for homeless mothers, for kids that have been victims of trauma and sexual abuse, speaking at some of the boys' homes that's happened at, or where they're taken care of. And then actually, as we got closer, did a big one with Alex's Lemonade Stand. So if nobody's heard of this, it's an incredible platform, but my business partner's grandson was going through cancer treatment at that period of time. And so these were the ones, so check those out. And so that was the trifecta of like what I was accomplishing. So it wasn't just like, hey, to do this thing to say that I did it. I mean, obviously that's a big motivator for me, like understanding my root, values of things that I live on, which is one of those being a highly competitive person. Yeah. Seeking recognition. I can say that without ego. I like to be recognized for the things that I've accomplished. A bit of creativity, and that you can see that in the design of this. But the deeper stuff is this, like helping people understand that like challenge and strife and the things that come at you in the world. And that's the bigger story. It just doesn't tie as much to this one, but it is something of value. It is something, there's so many people that speak to it and say, oh, you need to turn into it, but not really articulating just how much it is. So in the fitness environment, we can talk about this from a physiological standpoint. And it's, specific adaptation to impose demand. Like if you don't train, if you don't use your body, it will begin to atrophy. Quit using a limb, break your arm, do something. It will begin to atrophy, and it happens quick. Yeah. But this is life as a whole. This is every living being. The essence is to strive against the environment. Like if a tree doesn't have the wind hammering against it and the environment going, the roots do not grow deep and strong into the ground and root it. And it will grow to a certain height and it will fall over. And this is proven. Okay. the bark, well, it will literally kill it. Like I'm not over speaking when I say this. So I don't want to, disregard trauma and things that may have happened to people, but it has happened, and you may as well use, if you've been a victim of that, use what you can to become a stronger and better version of, become a more resilient, because it can be too much. It can be those things that if you do, again, we're on a fitness podcast. Hey, if I go do CrossFit 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then another cardio session, after that, I won't recover. Right. So it's always this balance. But if I go, I need to recover, I'm going to take a deload week. Oh, I was way stronger when I did that and felt better. I'm going to go deload for the next 6 months. It's not going to work. Right. I could do a massive hard workout once every 4 months and make no progress. Right. So I've been going on a rant for a little bit. So
that's all right.
Let's stop for a second. But we were talking about the squat. What are my motivations?
Yeah.
Those are some of the motivations, right?
Sure.
So, but those are the big three specific to that one. And I'm a little passionate about these things.
I can tell.
Yeah. First, the squat. I've actually been coming back from an injury, and I think it was 5 months ago. I couldn't even squat an empty bar. Like, I had a whole bunch of problems with my knees and my hips. Turns out it was all foot mobility issues, and now I'm up to about 245. But it's that really, really slow progress and being resilient about it. But, my resiliency is very different, I think, than yours. And, based on your book where you tell the story of, how you grew up, I'd love to hear you speak about, your childhood and how you grew up and how that ties into, where your resiliency is today. And is it more than, say, the average person because of that, or the vice versa?
Yeah. So, as I talk about my story, it's not about saying, oh, woe is me, or I'm such a badass, I overcame all this. But it is a story that I like to share because it can articulate how far you can come. And it can be just the same thing as what you've done over the last 5 months, going from a bar to 245. You're more resilient now. You're less prone to an injury now than you were 5 months ago, right? Because you've developed that. And 5 months from now, you're going to be further along in this process, right? And so life is the same way, and we forget about it. We're always trying to seek comfort. I'm going to just jump into my story. Let me get off the rants. I grew up homeless in the mountains. So my parents, particularly my mom, had some, she chose the life that she chose for a reason. She was going to school to become a chemical engineer. And she said, screw it. I don't want to be part of society. And she had her reasons for doing so. And she wanted to make some sort of, a life outside of the norm. And so she ended up in the mountains north of San Francisco. That was shortly after I was born. And then while we were living in the mountains, my brother came along, my 3 sisters came along, and we lived in very remote areas throughout Northern California through much of my early life. And some of these areas are now popularized. So I understand this is in the late 70s and early 80s, but this was, there's a documentary on Netflix called Murder Mountain. Okay. Mm-hmm. I lived 50 miles from there, but deeper and more remote.
Wow.
And so anybody that has watched that and now read my book, you'll understand when I'm talking about the things that happened to me and our family, how real it is when we're talking about police corruption, serial killers, murderers, human trafficking, all this stuff that I detail in my book. Like, that's what we were living amongst. And there's times like, 6 years old, the book starts out like, I'm being taught how to capture and handle live rattlesnakes. And got one wrapped around my arm, before I kill it, because that's the environment we lived in. We were living in tree forts at the time. And because there was rattlesnake dens all around, there was so many years, even into high school, there were times I'm like, heating up jugs of water in the sun on a rock so that I can go dump it over my head to take my bath, right? Or during the winter, doing that on a pot on a wood stove and stepping out back in the snow so I can not be laughed at as much when I go to school for how I smell. So this is my upbringing. And when I'm telling about living around those things happened directly to us. And I speak to them in the book. I have really trouble speaking to like some of those things without, it's still a little challenging. But we were taken by the state for a while. First time I saved my mom from the serial killer was in 1985. Human trafficking directly affected the family. And I'll just leave it at that. It's a wild ride of a story. Once the parents got us back from the state care, went to Central Oregon. They were in the drug trade. That's why we were in that area.
Mhm.
That's how you make just there's a lot of other unsavory people not doing it for altruistic reasons in those environments. They decided to stay clean when we moved up to Oregon after getting us back because they didn't want to risk losing us again, but quickly fell back into, hey, we don't want to be part of the world. And so we're up in the mountains prospecting, mining. I'm early age, very physical, God, I've worked my whole life.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Hauling backs of rocks up the side of hills and digging. Anyway, we ended up in that environment. By high school, got something of a stable living, so ended up in a mobile home. It was not really livable one, but it had running water and electricity, and so had a stable environment, less the alcohol and drug abuse that was going on in the household, because that was getting worse over time. My stepfather, who raised me, continued a downward mental decline into insanity, and I left to go to college. I was pretty successful as a student, as an athlete, and when I went to school, I didn't really keep in touch with my family for the first year and a half, just because it was easier. If I called or went home, I had to give them money, was dealing with all that stuff. And so I was just working and going to school and honestly partying a lot too. Mm-hmm. Discovered, I had a lot of self-esteem issues and other stuff growing up. When you're in that type of environment, you have those views of not only yourself, but, comments that people make or how they treat you. It's a real thing. And so when I went to college, I realized, nobody knows me, nobody knows my background. And I started drinking a bit, which kind of opened me up from, some of those insecurities. And I found that I was a fairly likable, charismatic person. And I kind of liked that, reality of it. But I quickly found out things were not going good at home. So somehow I was like a little bit of a stabilizing force. And when I left, things got really, really bad at home. And so I ended up taking custody of my 3 younger siblings and started that my senior year of college, maybe end of my junior year, somewhere in there. I was basically finished with college anyway. I was working full time. I was just finishing my senior project and I had all my classes done. And I was working on a dual engineering, second engineering degree. And yeah, anyway, I raised all 3 of my sisters over the course of chasing my career, getting my MBA, doing all these sorts of things, and started lifting weights and competing. I started lifting weights, by the way, in 1988. So just long before early junior high, middle school, somewhere in there. But I was a physical person before that. And so, and blessed with pretty good genetics from my mom, very athletic. Yeah, that's the early part of my life.
Yeah, that's just how things got rolling. Yeah,
yeah.
Easy
And then
peasy.
after that, I advanced in my corporate world. Next thing you know, I'm like, running companies, doing turnarounds, being sought for doing this stuff, like growing somebody from a regional to a national to international. Like my big one, I did a turnaround on an aerospace company that was going to lose its contract with Boeing. Everybody's going to lose their jobs. I came in, turned around to be the best supplier in the world to Boeing for quality and delivery, and financially solvent, got them prepped for sale and walked them through the sale process. And that's freaking this crazy kid from the sticks did that. I had a house with a white picket fence, very comfortable marriage, 2 kids, lots of money, owned a gym on the side. I was competing and ranked number 1 in the world. And I looked at myself one of the days and I said, why am I so fucking unhappy?
Yeah.
Like, I'm this kid from the sticks that proved like I can live the American dream. Here it is. I did it. I proved, all those people that looked at me and, or maybe they didn't, maybe it was my internal perceptions, but when I was younger, right. And And I proved them all wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I beat everybody at everything.
Yeah.
That's what it doesn't matter where you turn. I'm like, you want to be intellectual? I did that. You want to be career? I did that. You want to be athletic? I did. Like,
do you feel like all of that? I mean, you mentioned that you realized that you were unhappy. Do you feel like all of that sort of hyper intense pursuit was trying to get to that happiness, like trying to figure out, how do I find peace after an entire early lifetime of chaos and instability?
I think a lot was driven by those things, in that analysis, retrospect post. Like, yeah, a lot of that I think was driven by my desire to prove myself, to be better than everybody that had judged me. Everything.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, I mean, I think that definitely played a role. And is that a good place to come from? Probably not.
Yeah.
But what it accomplished what made me unhappy was I was not myself. I was not authentic to who I am. I was living someone else's dream of what they thought, how you should live and what success looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Nobody can tell you what success looks like or what's going to make you happy. So I quit my job.
Yeah.
I quit competitive lifting. I pulled out all my 401k that I earned over the last 20 years, sold my homes, asked my wife for a divorce, and rebuilt my life. Because I said, this is what I want to do. I want to have passion about everything that I want to do. I want to help people live a better quality of life. I want to inspire people, and I want to use the tools, because I'd actually been gaining a ton of knowledge. I was doing a lot of continuing education on the clinical side and integrating that with my lift. I was using that mindset, that the engineering mindset or whatever, just how I operate. And I knew what I wanted to do. Like, I was missing some things in my career. Like, I was able to inspire people, obviously in the leadership roles. Turnarounds are not like some fancy reorg strategy. They're like one person at a time, changing that individual, which is challenging. Yep. But I lacked the creative side. I lacked the ability to really impact and enact the change that I felt that I could in the world to help people live. And so I'd owned a gym on the side, and I was competing as a high level athlete, and I was starting to post content. Well, not starting, I'd been posting content online for free for like 7 years, writing articles and like sharing little snippets of my stories, and the impact that it was having, like the content that I was producing was like massive, getting people out of pain. Like, you're 5 months. How'd you feel 5 months ago, mentally and emotionally?
Oh, it's horrible.
Like,
yeah,
fucking horrible. Yeah. You change that for somebody, like, it's not solving world hunger, but I tell you what, it's doing something really impactful in the world. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Started Kabuki Strength around like that vision, that philosophy, and started drawing great talent to it, created new innovative products that help people realize that. Education, started drawing this amazing team. I drew my wife, my current wife, my one and only, discovered love for the first time. I thought I was just going to be a single dad. And like at 40 years old, found this amazing thing in my life that I didn't even realize was a thing, like that. It wasn't just in books and movies as some, farce. Like, wow, holy cow. And I decided to lift on my terms what I wanted to do. I competed long enough. I've proved myself there. I want to do it in a different fashion, and changed every aspect of my life.
There's a lot there that I want to ask about. And I think the thing that sticks out to me so much is that I typically react to stories like yours in one of two ways. Either one, I go, man, if this guy out there, whoever he is, can overcome this incredible, like struggling childhood, like nothing I've ever heard, this is unbelievable, then what's holding me back from my garden variety trauma bullshit and really going after the things that I care about and being successful at them? The other way I can go about it is to feel worse about not overcoming my shit and just being like, God, I suck even more than I thought, because, my life's been relatively easy by comparison. So to the people having both reactions, what message do you have for them to help them sort of figure out, okay, I'm ready. I'm sick of my own bullshit. I want to move on and get better at parenting, life, health, fitness, whatever it is.
And this is where it becomes practice. And this is where the discipline comes in. This is where the references to training come in that I was talking about. Because as we try to find comfort as human beings. There's some big impetuses, things that push us into the things that are scary and cause us to growth and develop resilience, which is like, you get to your teenage years and you want to leave home and get on your own. You want to find a mate, which is going to make you like kind of step over those insecurities and push into like, and then move that relationship to the next level and then have kids. And then, but beyond that, it stops. And that's where we see people kind of stall out, because from there, you actually have to take an active, conscious approach from it. Those biological drives are now gone. This is my opinions, but they're gone. And this is where it's easy to fall into the routine, the comfort, we seek it and think that that's the answer, when in fact, it is the thing that makes our gut twist, going, I want to avoid that hard conversation over there. I want to, you know what, there's a difficult challenge. I'm in a family relationship. It's a boss, it's a coworker, it's a whatever. I'm using just a hard conversation. Practice, that's your opportunity, right? It's the move in your life of, I want to take on a new project. Your boss says, hey, anybody who wants to take on this, challenging, let's disappear in the back of the room. I don't want that. I don't know if I can pull that off. Or I go back to school, start your own business, make a career change. All these are examples of going, look at those things that scare you, that little bit of excitement, but mixed with it. And it just causes that twist every time. That's your practice to be able. I can't tell you that every one of those is going to turn out to be success, but every one of those is going to develop the resilience, right? And so I had the opportunity of forced into learning this stuff, because these things were hitting my whole life, and I was either going to fail like everyone around me, because I had nearly every major type of trauma there is happen to me during the course of my life. And, that's going to either be a drug addict, dead, or in prison, right? And so I was forced to make those decisions, and didn't have to actively, like, nobody tells you this stuff. Like, there's no school, class in high school or college that tells you this stuff, but this is life. And you have to stay in the practice, because you're going to find that place of comfort, and you sit back for too long. You need it. Like, take a vacation, take that week off, resettle, have a great weekend and find your energy. But just like not training for 3 months, a deload week may treat you good. Not training for 3 months, you're going to get soft. And so it's not just physical, it's mental and it's emotional. So you've got to have those challenges. You got to have the practice, you got to have the workouts. And then if you layer those, just like over time, just like, making that as a resilience process from a bar to 245 over 5 months, you can keep stair stepping, and you can keep moving above it, but you have to stay with it. Not too much though, because that's just like you're, doing daily doubles every day to the point of failure. So you've got to have, the balance. And so that's, it becomes an active, conscious practice. You've got to do it, but ride the line of not burning the candle on both ends, not succumbing to the hustle porn, all the grind mentality that everybody. Make sure that you're chasing the things that truly mean it. So that's one side of it. The other side is truly understand what you want, because you're going to need deep-seated motivation to really move through this stuff year over year, decade over decade, to make huge things. So it can't be, I want money, I want rich. Like, you got to freaking peel back the layers and understand these things that really mean something to you, this way of living. And I listed a couple early for me: competition, recognition, creativity, continual learning would be another one, sense of family. Like, it's all going to be different. They're not things that you can ever own or have. You never get it, but you're always moving into it. It's this, place that you can always take a step. And so then now the thing is, now take a step back, and every day ask yourself, once you've created this, like, well, it's not created. It's like, it's always being revised, but like, am I taking a step today that moves me towards this path that I want? Because what will happen is you get caught in the drift of life, and you haven't taken a step for 6 months. And then it's 6 years.
Yep.
And then it's 2 decades. And you're like, where the fuck did life go? And next thing you know, you're on your deathbed, and you've got all these regrets. And I guarantee, Go walk into a freaking home where people are on their deathbeds and ask them this question. Okay. This is where most people end, is having those regrets. And we love to feel like we're doing stuff and creating these bucket lists and pulling things off, but is it truly aligned? And if you just take this one minuscule step every day, doesn't have to be big, and it can't be big, it won't be, one tiny step that looks like you've moved nowhere, do that, and then look back 10 years from now, and you can see that a kid from the sticks can do what I've done, like with Kabuki, and within a couple years. So I'm going to launch a brand. I'm going to create products that are going to change. I want to change the face of fitness. I haven't done that yet, but within a couple years, 29 of 30 Major League Baseball teams, customers, 90% of the NFL, 90% of the NBA, 600 plus colleges, every major one that you could think about. You're Canadian. NHL teams, they use our stuff too. You know, of course, I mentioned the one MLB holdout is not the Canadian team. So that's pretty massive for a period of time, but it took decades to get there. For this kid from the sticks to be able to be positioned to do those sorts of things. And when you look back, you got to focus on that one step, because if you've got something, you want to go someplace and you think about everything you've got to understand the vision, you may not have it all figured out, but a general nebulous cloud of where I want to kind of be, it's going to be overpowering. The how unbelievably complex and hard it's going to take to get from where you're at to where you are there. But you got to understand the suffering and all the work and it's not just like, kid going, hey, I want to be an NFL star and I want to be whatever they tell you in school, be a dreamer. Like, you've got to understand the work, the vision, everything in there, but you've got to focus on just that one little step in front of you today.
Yep. Yeah.
What's your next workout? What's your next? I relate everything to either cars or training. They're great analogies for
yes.
So
I like that. I am incredibly impressed with you as a person, with everything you've accomplished, and really the distance that you've had to travel to accomplish all of those things. But we are coming, and I would love to talk to you for hours and hours and hours. But we are pretty short on time here. So, I'd love to ask about the book, where we can get it, and where can we find you online and find out more about you if we want to learn more.
I'll make it super easy. So you go to just my personal website, Chris Duffin. That's like muffin, but with a D, right? chrisduffin.com. Pretty easy. Or Christopher Duffin. You go there. There'll be links to all my social media profiles. There'll be links to Kabuki Strength, Barefoot Athletics, Build Fast Formula. There'll be links to where you can buy my book. There'll be a link for a free Audible download. If you join up an Audible account, get my book and one other book. Or you can just straight get my book, because you got to sign up for an account if you do that. It's not technically free.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'll give you the first half of my book for absolutely free too. Just sign up for the email list on there, and you'll also get the exclusive discounts to the company, exclusive educational content. Just go there. I want to have, please buy my book too. But like, if you don't want to, I get it. I'll give you the first half for free anyway. So that's the easiest place. You can find social media. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook are the three more prominent. People like, well, LinkedIn. Why don't you do Twitter or something? I don't know. Right. I can't conversate in 140 characters if you haven't figured that out. And I deal with a lot of professionals in the professional coaching and clinical world. So LinkedIn ends up being great. Just type in Chris Duffin, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram, I got a little blue check next to me. I know you don't memorize the freaking avatar. You guys are smart enough.
Yeah, Chris Duffin, not muffin. You don't strike me as a guy that eats a lot of muffins. Chris,
cookies, that's another story.
Oh, boy. Make room for the cookies. All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much. Incredible, fascinating story, inspiring. Thank you so much for your time, for the book, and for all the work you're doing. It's very important stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys letting me talk so much on the show. Hopefully I didn't talk over you, but I really wanted to share my messages. And
we let the interesting people do all the talking here. So
Exactly.
So much more that we did not get to that I wish we had more time to spend with Chris Duffin. He's the author of The Eagle and the Dragon, A Story of Strength and Reinvention. You can find links to that book and all things related to Chris on our website in the show notes for this episode at thefitmess.com.
And while you're there, head on over to Facebook, where we've got the Fit Mess community group, where we are having lots of good conversations about how we are being more resilient every single day, and challenges, and being healthier mentally and physically. It's just been really good to connect with people there.
The link to that is, of course, on Facebook and also on the show notes for this episode at thefitmess.com, where we will be back next Wednesday with a brand new episode. Thanks so much for listening.
See you, everyone.
We know this podcast is amazing and doesn't seem to lack anything, but we need a legal disclaimer. Prior to implementing anything discussed in this podcast, it is your responsibility to conduct your own research and consult your physician. You should assume that Jeremy and Zach don't know what they're talking about, and they're not liable for any physical or emotional issues that occur directly or indirectly from listening to this podcast.